the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm right, mate. Warm, mate. Muggy. It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's clammy today.
Yep.
I've got a feeling we're going to get in another heat wave very, very soon. I can smell it in the air.
Yeah, I don't like it, mate, because when we're doing this, as I said before, I'm sat up in this tiny little corner. I'm all hot and sweaty and bothered. It's not cool.
Well, yeah, it's the opposite of cold. It's warm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Captain Obvious. Maxi, England won a football tournament.
They did. How amazing have the Lionesses been all the way throughout this tournament?
So
and it's good that they're getting the recognition and also the mainstream recognition that the women's game absolutely deserves. Yeah, couldn't be more proud of them. Amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so good. Bit emotion as well, finally seeing England win something and all the young girls celebrate. And what was great as well when the camera sort of spanned around the crowd a lot of the time in the final. So many young girls watching the games live and so on. So, the opportunity to really inspire a generation, I suppose. I know it's a bit cliche and I know it's a bit cheesy, but that is literally what's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this could be the fulcrum point, the pivot that means the women's game gets even more recognition, and then we get young girls who never would have looked at football as a career path. They can go on and do some absolutely massive things. So yeah, it was just an amazing time to be English. It's something really to be proud of.
Yeah, totally. And some of the goals they've scored and some of the football they've played, man, fantastic. Isn't it? It's one thing winning something, but it's being entertained as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're on par with the men. There were so much amazing talent. It was an amazing tournament to watch. Not even just from England's point of view, but just the quality of women's football all across Europe is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, just superb, mate. Just superb, and just such a buzz. And today, watching on Sky Sports News as well, the sort of celebrations in Trafalgar Square and all the celebrities sort of chiming in with well wishes and just fantastic. Such a buzz,
And it's not like we've had a lot to be excited about and to give us that feeling of pride in England. We've had been locked in our houses for the last 18 months. We've had all the palaver with Boris Gate and the new Tory leader. But yeah, it was good to have something to kind of put all that on the back burner, forget about it for a couple of weeks, and have an amazing Euros for the women. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Absolutely.
Commonwealth Games, Magsy. That's on at the moment as well. Commonwealth Games. That's something you're into.
Yeah, I don't mind watching some of the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, it's been quite a busy week for sport because obviously we had Wimbledon as well. So yeah, it's been not too bad, I would say.
It gets a bit samey for me. All that the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games. It gets a bit samey. It's like when I've seen somebody throw something really far, and then somebody throw it further than them. I've kind of seen everything then, haven't
I? I mean, what if you missed that time that someone threw it a little bit further than both of them?
Well, I suppose, but it's like the wife had the swimming on as well just before we went live, and that's great because it's a race, it's exciting and so on. But when you've seen 3 or 4 heats, it's like it's kind of all the same now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the times when you get the Olympics and Commonwealth coverage, and they would flick from sport to sport. So you'd see maybe a little bit of track and field, and then and now we go over to the velodrome where we're seeing some cycling and stuff like that. It is more focused on one sport for a longer period. But yeah, I mean, you do it to be proud of your country.
Well, yeah. Speaking of cycling, watching a bit of that yesterday or the day before. I can't remember when it was. 6 laps. This was right round that sort of slopey. They're like a cereal bowl, aren't they? Like,
the velodrome.
Yeah, okay. And it's 6 laps this race, right? And don't get wrong, they're going flat out, innit? They're pretty fucking sharpish on these bikes. Let's be honest. But the first 3 laps, there's a little old dude on a push bike. Looks like he's just sauntering down to the shops. It looks like he's got a basket on the front of his bike. His nice little red mud guards, and he's just popping along. And they got to do 3 laps behind the old dude before he pulls out the way, and they fire off. What's the point?
Is he the pace setter?
Well, I guess so, because I'm not allowed to overtake him. But why not just race for 3 laps, or why not just get him out of the way and do a whole 6? It seemed daft to me.
I think it's so they get up to the top speed of the back.
Well, yeah, Sharon did explain that to me. So,
so you know why he was there, but you still have got a beef about it.
I know why he's there. Sharon explained. It just still seems stupid. When you were kids and you were racing on your bikes, when you're racing against your mates,
you're not on your BMX doing jumps over a ramp that you put a plank of wood over 2 bricks. These are professional athletes at the peak of physical fitness.
If they're that professional, I'm not being funny. When I was racing down the high street on my BMX, I didn't need my granddad there. They do. Just saying.
I mean, you have a point. Jesus wept.
Anyway, Magsy. Anyway, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, a Radio Techers production in conjunction with the SJP World Media Network. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the USF Sundome, which is where Royal Rumble 1995 was. It finally came home. Oh, yes. Go on, England. The Aldo Montoya, to my state of paranoia. That's right, you can get pills for it. A podcaster who states, just like Shawn Michaels in the 1995 Royal Rumble, he always goes the full distance, but only if the time is shrunk down to 30 seconds, just like in the 1995 Royal Rumble. The podfather himself, Lord Mags. Are you excited about chain wrestling this week, my friend?
Yeah, I am. I've got some earth-shattering news when we get to the non-wrestling topics. Something that I found out today that has absolutely blown my mind, but we will get to it. Did you watch SummerSlam this weekend?
Yes, I did. I watched the first part of it, and then I kind of fell asleep on the sofa and woke up for the last part of it.
Okay, I mean, I watched it. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was a really good show. To say how kind of snake bitten it was with the plans. I think Cody was meant to be in the title picture. I think they did well to kind of pull a really good show out. The beginning of the Triple H era saw some returns. Dakota Kai, who was recently cut, came back. Bailey's back. Io Shirai called up to main roster. So yeah, it was a really fun show. And Brock versus Roman, even though we've seen it a dozen times now, the way that match went, it felt fresh. So yeah, I was really, really impressed. Really impressed.
Yeah, I enjoyed what I saw. I think Becky Lynch in the opener, I thought that was a great match. The Roman Brock stuff, I could watch those two scrap all the time. I think they're great, But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good show. Hopefully, this is a sign of things to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The word on the street is that the locker room are very, very positive about Triple H being head of creative and head of talent relations. So, yeah, hopefully things will look better.
Okay. I mean, before we dive into the other wrestling event I want to bring up in a moment, shall we have a quick look who has joined us this evening, Magsy, in the chat?
Yes, we shall. And as happens every week, somebody tries to steal Sharon's thunder. And this week it's Morty saying it's Monday.
Morty.
You know what that means. But Sharon fires back, saying the same. And then Dan, it's Mean Day. You know what that knows. Brilliant.
No, you mean what that knows.
You mean what that knows, yeah. Morty saying, I was worried I wasn't going to make the show again as I'm in a strange and foreign land, struggling to communicate with the locals. I think he may be in Burnley. That might be the strange
He's not.
and foreign.
I can tell you exactly where he is. He's in Matson, just down the road from me. Honestly.
He's in Gloucester.
Yeah, because I'm meeting him for a pint tomorrow night. But genuinely,
Oh, wow.
he's literally in Gloucester. Yeah.
The poor man. I hope he wipes his feet on the way out.
You bastard.
He said, "I've not got my I haven't got my tits out this week, so he's off." Unfortunately, I mean, I would have kept that photo up because that was hilarious. I told the wife about it, and she called me a fucking idiot.
This week's looks a little bit like, just because the way it's lit and where our pictures are, it looks a little bit like you've put a picture up for yourself of Shawn Michaels and the Bulldog, and just thought, "Fuck, sigh."
Well, I actually wanted to get hold of a picture of the famous ending, the kind of skinning the cat, but every picture I could find had someone else's either logo on, or someone they put like full match and like YouTube, and thought I can't be bothered doing much photo editing. Yeah. So Dan's agreeing that it's nice to have football back after 56 years. Absolutely. Mort says you can add it to the things that women do better than men. So everything there, Morty. Scottish Danny in the chat. Hello, sir. How are you? And Sharon says she hasn't stopped crying. The ladies finally went out and did. Listen, we don't need us men bashing over this.
My goodness.
It's amazing what the women have done. Absolutely amazing. But don't put us men down. We're nice. We're good at football as well sometimes.
Yeah. We're at least average.
Morty's saying his niece loves football, but there's no girls' teams near her, and she's the only girl on the team and got bullied a lot. A couple of days before they won, she scored a winner for her team. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, that's amazing.
Fantastic stuff. That's awesome.
Sa finds throwing things repetitive, but rolling dairy products down a hill he'll watch forever.
Look, just to clear that up, right? The cheese roll happens once a year, and it's maybe two. They chuck it down a couple of times. That's it. It's not like, say for example, the Olympics. It's on for a month, and it's the people just doing the same shit over and over again. Do you know what I mean?
How often are the Olympics on?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
That's when the Olympics.
So
are on,
not.
every 4 years.
So not yearly then.
No.
No. So you have to wait 4 years till it comes round again.
Yeah, but it's not just that, is it? It's not just the Olympics, because we've got the Commonwealth on now, and then you get like the World Athletics, and then you've got other stuff that the BBC shows or whatever channel it's on. It's and it's all the same. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not slagging it off like from a point of I think it's crap. It can be really entertaining, but
It can.
after a while, I'm like, all right, I've seen this now. I've seen this person chuck stuff now. Let's watch a bit of judo. And then when you've seen a woman chuck another woman around for a bit in the judo, it's like, all right, let's go watch something else now.
So is this less to do with the sporting prowess, or more to do with you and your concentration span?
I've got no issues with my concentration span, mate. Trust me.
So you've just said, "Oh, I'll watch some people doing some judo." Oh, I've had enough of this now. Let's turn over. You are a remote hogger, aren't you? And you flick between channels.
No, I don't. When all this stuff on the athletics and that is on, no, I don't get a look in with the remote. Shad just dominates the TV from now on.
Yeah, as she says, gymnastics is the one. I bloody love it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of the gymnastics, but yeah, I get why it's people like it. It's so technical. Connor No Soccer. Hello, sir. How are you? And Mort said he's actually interested to watch Raw. Yeah, I haven't watched Raw aside from that the special episodes like the Raw 1000 and 25 years. I haven't watched it in decades. I'm tempted to at least catch some highlights of it this time, just because of just to see how Triple H changes things. So that'll be interesting. Dan is saying the tractor had more personality than Cody Rhodes, to be fair. Jesus, that tractor was the star of the match. It was absolutely amazing. Aldo Montoya to the state of my paranoia. That was brilliant. Scottish Danny.
Thank you.
And UTT Rob giving a round of applause. I think that's more to do with us than the women's football, I would assume.
I think it's a wave, isn't it? He might just be saying hi. Hi, Rob.
It did. Yeah. Hi, Rob. Yeah. There's me and my vision. So Sharon's saying she has the power to ban people, banning Mortar. That's yeah.
That's the diving on in early.
Cross the boss.
But...
Yeah. Don't cross the boss. Mortar saying, yeah, Sharon, when I did that, I forgot that I'm technically within hitting distance. She'll swill you. She'll Si'll come for a pant and she'll be behind him and she'll swill you with that pant. And I've got friends in Matson. Jesus Christ, he's threatening to send the boys around.
And I'll tell you what, some areas of Matson are rough as fuck, mind. So you want to behave.
Dan says that you need to stop the pretense. You were talking to him about a cheese rolling podcast yesterday.
You're such a fucking liar.
This is brilliant. They should try rolling cottage cheese, make it a challenge cheese.
Yeah, okay.
Or Dairyly. Try rolling.
I'll suggest it at the next meeting down the farm.
And Mortar is up for a cheese rolling podcast. I think Cheese-a-vision, Mortar, Cheese-a-vision.
Oh.
And then we've got Scottish Daddy agreeing with the lot. So yeah, that's pretty much all the chat caught up with.
Awesome stuff, mate. Before we get on to our Hall of Lane, I'll have a quick touch upon Ric Flair's last match. I watched it this afternoon.
Okay.
Have you seen it, Magsy?
I've not.
Okay.
I don't think I particularly want to because it's been, from what I've read about it, it's not good. It's essentially a 73-year-old man getting beat the fuck up. A 73-year-old man with a pacemaker getting beat the fuck up.
Okay, the card itself, there was some good stuff on there. It's very nostalgic, obviously, with the whole Jim Crockett Promotions aspect to it. Rock and Roll Express and Arn Anderson's there and all this sort of stuff. It's very nostalgic. There's some good matches on there. There's some not so good matches on there. There's a brilliant AAA Luchador 4-way contest. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a massive fan of Ray Phoenix anyway. That was really good. Flair's last match. I'm a huge Flair mark. I think the guy is the greatest to ever do it. And I really wanted this to go well. It could have been a lot worse, but it could have been a hell of a lot better. It went on far too long. Okay. It went on far too long. And the stuff you see online now, I mean, I guarantee people have been on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, and seen little videos, clips of it, and so on. Those bits you see are the worst of what happens. There's a lot of decent stuff that goes on as well, but it probably doesn't outweigh the bad.
Okay.
I just hope that now he's got it out of his system. It's the last match on his terms. I just kind of hope that's going to be it, you know?
I don't think it is. I think he's going to be the Terry Funk where if the bright paycheck comes along, he'll do it all again.
Okay. I mean, as much as Jeff Jarrett gets a lot of hate from us and from Dan Griffin and others as well, I want to sort of, in a really rare occasion here, I want to sing his praises a little bit because he worked his bollocks off in this match to try and get it to a standard that was okay. But even that didn't really save it. Ultimately, it's a 70-plus-year-old man who...
with a pacemaker.
Who shouldn't be wrestling, but there's ways you can get around it. It's a tag match. So first of all, there's your first shortcut. Okay? He's got younger guys around him who can work. There's another shortcut. All I wanted to see was the music hit, Flair come out in his robe, do a bit of a strut, woo a few times, hit a few chops. Could have done without seeing him bleed, but it's Ric Flair. I suppose it ticks another box for a Flair match. And then tag out, let the younger guys do their stuff. He comes in, gets the win with a figure 4. 5 minutes, just done, and that's that. You know, that would work for me. But this went on far too long. The stalling by the other guys trying to get it to a passable level eventually went too much because of how much they had to do to carry it that way. It's not as bad as people are making out online, but at the same time, if you're going to watch it, Magsy, prepare yourself for some uncomfortable moments.
I will eventually watch it. It's not exactly something that I'm clamoring to watch right now, but yeah, I just hope, like you said, he's got it out of his system now, and that's the end of it. But Ric Flair being Ric Flair, I don't see that. But
nah,
yeah.
No, but there we go. Anyway, that's that then, I suppose. On the topic of things that could be a lot better, shall we chuck some crap away, Magsy, in the Chain Wrestling Hall of Lame?
We shall.
What we got, mate? What we got?
Okay, so before I get into my Hall of Lame, I want to kind of give a definition. I want to give the definition of art. So it's widely accepted that art is the purpose of art is to allow people to express emotion, commemorate, expose injustice and make political statements, overcome obstacles and kind of give their view of the world around them. You can teach people compassion, history, empathy, and at its kind of like the core of art is for someone to be able to express themselves, basically showing what their character is all about. And I think all of us as wrestling fans can agree that we see wrestling as an art form. Sometimes it's a very kind of raw, ugly looking art form, and sometimes wrestling can be absolutely amazing. It can take you on an emotional roller coaster, and that for me is it epitomizes why I love wrestling, and it really kind of stamps down that wrestlers are artists. They're instead of using paint or music as their medium, they use their technical skill, their bodies to paint us a physical picture, to take us on an emotional journey. And something that's relatively true about artists is the most highly lauded, the best of the artists usually have some sort of inner turmoil, usually have constant battles with their own demons, because if you have that kind of the dark side of your life, it can kind of express itself with the light side of your creativeness. And that I think is the same with wrestling. Some of the best wrestlers in the world have had some very, very dark demons, some very kind of hard things that they've had to go through in their life. See, this is slowly working its way back round to wrestling.
Okay.
But one thing that has really kind of ground me as a wrestling fan for the longest time is when wrestling blurs the lines of a character and the wrestler behind it, their real life personal demons. So I want to put into the Hall of Fame this week wrestling using inner demons as storyline fodder. Now we've seen this over the years multiple times. I mean, go back to 1996 with Jake the Snake Roberts and Jerry Lawler pouring whiskey down his throat. I mean, this was a guy who struggled and still constantly struggles with his demons with alcohol and drink. Fast forward a little bit to Hawk from the Legion of Doom when he was having drink problems. It was put into a storyline with Droz being kind of like the third member of the Legion of Doom, and then we got that horrific scene where Hawk fell off the top of the Titantron. Again, taking into making a story out of Hawk's real life issues. Then we had, and for me, probably one of the most egregious ones, Scott Hall, when he came back to the WWE as part of the NWO. He was put in a program with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and part of the build for that, he was kidnapped. Then he was locked in a fridge piled high with beer. Austin taunting him, saying, "Do you want a beer?" Dragging him to the ring, pouring a beer all over him. And this was a guy who has had a noted history of alcoholism and drug abuse. And at the time, he was actually on a medication called antabuse, which was to physically make him be sick if he drunk alcohol. And he was there getting alcohol poured all over him. And then recently, still happening now to this day, we had Jeff Hardy and Sheamus having a storyline and built all around the demons of Jeff Hardy, to the point where Jeff had to take a urine sample in the ring to be tested by a doctor as part of this storyline. It makes me really, really uncomfortable as someone who has demons, not particularly with substance abuse, but I certainly do have issues with my mental health. To see someone's problems being used as a catalyst to push a fantasy product, it really kind of grinds me. So my entry this week is using real life demons as part of a storyline. I'm totally on board with that, mate.
I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy booking, lazy story writing. I understand that some people like when the lines are blurred between the TV product and reality. I understand it can make it for being a bit edgy and so on, but you don't need to be doing stuff like that. And a lot of the things you listed there, in fact, maybe I think all of the things you listed there were within one company.
Yeah.
So we know how that company for a long time operated. We know how that company was, I suppose, the employees or contractors, as they were referred to as, were, I suppose, working under fear a lot of the time. A lot of these guys were told, if you don't do what we told you, that's it, you're done. Maybe that played a part in them doing these storylines or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Who knows?
Absolutely. And you've also got to take into account the person at the top of the pile, Vince McMahon. He revelled in embarrassing people. How many times have people gone to their hometown and they've been the butt of the jokes? I mean, JR, for instance, had to kiss Vince McMahon's ass in his hometown. I understand that this is the whims of one man. It's just, for me, it's endemic in wrestling. I mean, we've seen AEW skirt the lads. It was never as kind of egregious as any of them storylines, but the whole depressed Hangman and the alcoholism there, that kind of skirted the same kind of lines. So it seems to be something that, like I said, wrestling is built on it. It's blurring the lines, being based as much in reality. I just think sometimes you can leave those stories in the bin for me. That doesn't attract me to wrestling. Yeah,
just be better, isn't it? I suppose is the message. Yeah. Just be better at your job that you're very well paid for. You don't need to be dipping into this sort of thing. And so you got to think of these people's families, not even their families. You got to think of families of people who have been affected by what you see on television. You know, I mean, my wife watches Hollyoaks. Stuff happens on Hollyoaks with regards to people's drink, drugs, whatever. There's always a disclaimer on there saying if you've been affected by any of this, there's a number to call. You don't get that with WWE television.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I think is quite irresponsible, isn't it?
Yep, you are right.
Yeah, I agree though, mate. I agree. That's a great shape for the Hall of Fame this week. And just another reason why I think fuck Vince McMahon, really. So...
nah.
Yes.
Hey, goodbye.
Did a hell of a lot of good for the wrestling business. It's very easy to forget that, but I'm not.
He did.
I'm not sad he's gone.
Exactly, same. Absolutely the same.
Yeah, there we go. My entrance into the Hall of Fame this week, Magsy, is nowhere near as in depth or as well thought out or as always going to be as articulately explained as your one. Mine is sort of a request from a friend of ours called Scottish Danny, with reference to a Nitro Nights episode we recorded the other week. I said, yep, that makes sense. Going in Monday. So on behalf of Scottish Danny, I would like to chuck in somebody from WCW who looked the part Really did. He looked like he was going to be an absolute star. And this is the reason he's going in, he was just shite. I've got no long, in-depth explanation. That's just the reason why. And I present to you Van Hammer.
Wow. Okay.
Now, Van Hammer was 6'6", 270, 280, something like that. He never really got it, let's be honest. None of his matches were great. And he looked amazing. But then we had this awful rock star gimmick of his. Now, that's the era of Van Hammer I'm discussing. Later on, Van Hammer in WCW, in much later, the Attitude Era and so on, we can look at that another time. I'm talking early 90s Van Hammer, before he left the company, and I think it was 93, 94-ish, whatever. It just wasn't very good. His feet got muddled up all the time. His timing was completely out all the time. Sometimes it looked like he didn't really know where he was supposed to be stood. But what I'd also like to include in all of this, well, first of all, something that'll please a couple of people, I'm fully aware. His debut match, it looked okay because he came out and destroyed Terry Taylor in less than 40 seconds. I know that's going to bring a smile to certain people's faces in the chat.
Fuck Terry Taylor.
Exactly. But after that, oh, dear me. It's just not a good look at all. And part of the whole entrance into the Hall of Fame, I want to put forward the gimmick itself as well, because it just shows how WCW a lot of the time, and wrestling in general, I suppose, a lot of the time, they haven't got their finger on the pulse. Okay? Now, Terry Taylor, got him on the brain now, look. Van Hammer was signed in September of 1991. For a lot of money, $150,000 a year he was given.
Jesus.
In 1991, on the base of a couple of tryout matches, okay? He was given a gimmick that, I suppose, looks-wise, maybe did suit him, because he had the long blonde hair and the tan and all that sort of stuff. So he looked like a hair metal guy. On dusty roads, and all the guys who were in, producing the show at the time were thinking, okay, this is going to be great. This is in touch with the kids. This is what everyone's into. But he looked like he was in Warrant, or he looked like he was in, I don't know, White Lion, or Cinderella, or one of these hair bands, Poison, or Motley Crue, or whatever. September 1991 is the exact same month Nirvana released the album Nevermind.
And we got the seismic shift to grunge.
Well, it had already started. Nevermind was not Nirvana's first album. Grunge had been going for a couple of years before that anyway. But literally, if they really had their fingers on the pulse, they would know that by the time we were hitting 1990, hair metal was on its way out. And by the time Nirvana released their first album, which was 1990, they killed hair metal overnight. Mm-hmm. But yet, WCW at the time thought, this is in touch with the kids. This is what the kids want. Rock and roll, big hair, and, So, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I wanted to see Van Hammer come down carrying an acoustic guitar, wearing a cardigan, looking like Kurt Cobain or whatever, but...
No, because we had Raven for that.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that is my entry into the Hall of Fame this week, my friend. Van Hammer and his early 90s WCW run with the guitar he couldn't play and the shit out-of-date gimmick.
This absolutely tickled me from Dan Griffin. Van Hammer was once talking shit about smaller wrestlers at a Christmas party at DDP's house, and William Regal smacked the shit out of him.
Go on, Regal.
Brilliant. Go on, Regal. And Rob is saying the major stash disrespect on this podcast is deserved. He also says, fuck Terry Taylor. And Kevin Nash killed WCW, but Terry Taylor kicked it when it was down, waited for it to be resuscitated, and kicked it again, then shit in its mouth. Brilliant. Brilliant. I count myself lucky that I wasn't a big WCW watcher, so I've seen very little of Van Hammer. By the sounds of it, I've had a lucky escape.
To quote Bruce Pritchard, it all looked all right for a while, and then that bell.
And then the bell, yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, grunge, dead. But there we go. There we go. Magsy, is there anything else in the chat we need to check in with quickly before we jump on our non-wrestling topic?
Yeah, a lot of talk about our picks. In fact, let's go back to I think it was Scottish Danny or Morty saying at the Ric Flair at one spot he faked a heart attack right in front of his family. Jesus, that's grim.
I mean, that description is spot on. That is exactly what happened. But what you actually saw, it weren't like when they had the heart attack in WCW and he's on the deck or anything like that. He grabbed his chest and went like this a bit and then popped a thumb in the guy's eye. I actually found it quite amusing because everyone's saying he was going to die in the ring. I kind of took it as a bit of a, but I can understand at the same time if his family weren't smartened up to this, that could have been a bit of a worry.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Dan saying, even at the time it aired, 8-9-year-old me knew that the Hawk storyline was bullshit. Yeah, I mean, it was, but it was very much based in reality. Hawk did have a massive drink and pills problem. Yeah, it just feels grimy to me to do storylines like that. And as Danny puts perfectly, it's such a cheap crutch. It absolutely is. Cam Griffin in the chat, hello, sir. We will be talking some wrestling this week, Cam, so you don't have to disappear halfway through. And apparently that's Morty's favourite Griffin brother. So, yeah, Dan is now banning Morty from the Doctor Who pod. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Cammy's saying a guest entrance to the Hall of Laymen. Yeah, and I actually do want to pick a bone with you about this. This is not the first time that you have half-arsed your pick for the Hall of Laymen. You need to pull it out of the bag next week, sir. Now getting people to give you Hall of Lame picks. Come on.
No, I didn't ask for it. He suggested it, and I said, "Yeah, no worries." There's no problem with that, is there?
Connor says. Connor saying Van Hammer sound like a Vince McMahon wet dream. Yeah, Vince certainly does love his big sweaty men, but thankfully it's not easy up to him anymore. So hopefully we'll get the likes of Johnny Gargano back. I'm amazed Vince never offered Van Hammer a tour bus. And Rob says, wasn't that a brain aneurysm in WCW?
I don't know. It might well have been. I can just remember it being an incredibly bad taste because nobody was told it was going to happen. And people were very upset backstage because they believed it to be real when they were filming it live for like Nitro or something like that. The details are a bit hazy, but yeah, it might have been a brain aneurysm. In my mind, I'm thinking heart attack. But like, it's very, very plausible I could be wrong because I'll be honest, it wouldn't be the first time. So,
and Mark bringing it right up today is saying rumour that the first hour of Raw tonight is ad free. So that might be a reason why people tune in if you don't want to watch ads.
I got work to I'll have to watch when I get home. That's
the chat all caught up with.
Lovely stuff. So then, want to jump on our non-wrestling topic this week, Magsy?
Let's do it.
Basically, this week we thought, people have time off from work sometimes, whether it's pulling a sickie or it's legit, or maybe you just take a day's holiday and stay at whatever. What do you do with that time when you're at home? What did you do when you're off school poorly? If you were skiving, did you do something you shouldn't have been doing? Or were you just sat in front of daytime TV? What did you watch? And so on. So that was kind of what we went with, Magsy, wasn't it?
It was. It wasn't the original pick.
It wasn't, no.
Our original pick got bumped because it's being used on another show on the network.
Well, yeah, that wasn't actually why it was bumped, but that did contribute. Okay. There's another show. I can't remember who it was, but I think there's two other shows that are not part of this network who are also running a kind of Ask Us Anything, which is going to be our topic this week. And I thought, well, everyone's asking everybody anything. Let's do something a bit different. It's kind of what we went with. So, yeah, the other show Magsy is mentioning is actually Check-In at Powell Palace. That's part of the SJP World Media Network, where me and my wife will just be sitting down and having a chat. Start off with once a fortnight, maybe once a week when we get going, whatever. And a few people have sent questions in to that show there. It was literally a throwaway thing on Twitter. Just ask us, if you want to ask any questions into the show, get them in. And it kind of ran away and snowballed and became very much a Q&A format for the episode. So it's going to be quite interesting there. But that was not the actual intent when it went out. So it was more of a, you've got any questions, just chuck them our way sort of thing. And it kind of snowballed from there. So
a show by Sar Powell that snowballs. Again, like we mentioned, I think it was last week. This was meant to be 45 minutes long. This show,
Really, even that, it's just a half hour.
we went 2 hours last week and didn't touch any wrestling whatsoever. Ridiculous.
But we
ridiculous.
Are a wrestling podcast.
At least we're getting some wrestling in this week.
We are, and we have got to crack on and get to that. To be fair, because we're 40 minutes in and we still haven't touched our main topic yet. Our non-wrestling topic. Sorry. I will start with Twitter then, and we'll go to any DMs that we received at the end. Magsy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We start off with Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. He says, it's a well-established story on Bang Bang podcast, but I was in a pub in Harrow in the late 90s, and they charged me so much for a pint, I assumed they charged me for 2. So I took 2 off the bar. The other one belonged to Going for Gold host, Henry Kelly. So we had words.
It's brilliant. Such a brilliant story. Can you imagine Rob threatening to go outside with Henry Kelly and beat his teeth in?
Have a scrap.
Be brilliant.
I wonder if he is like low-key a tough guy though, Henry Kelly.
I mean, his hair looked like it was hairsprayed till it was stiff. So one headbutt, and he's going to cut he's going to cut your forehead open.
And he's quite sort of spindly as well, and he's long arms and legs, a bit like Peter Craig. So imagine his elbows like really
wiry.
sharp. Yeah, that's the word I'm
wiry.
looking for. Yeah, there we go. At Scottish Juggalo on Twitter, Danny here, who has a show fast approaching on the SJP World Media Network, coming up very, very soon with our good friend Tyler Peters. He says here, he faked being ill, so I didn't have to attend the final day of school in 2007. Instead, he watched an entire series of Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads on UK Gold.
What a waste of a day. What an absolute waste of a day.
Oh, man. Wasn't there the Likely Lads and then Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads? They were 2 different shows, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think they had the same stars, but the shows were like decades apart. I think the original Light Lads was in black and white.
Oh, okay. Oh, why? Okay. UK Gold used to show some great stuff, didn't it? You know, the old stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of old trap that hasn't aged well.
Yeah, fair point. Cam, Minder. Oh, those are fighting words, mate. You're going to start a scrap with people in the chat talking about Minder. Cam at Cam Griff 92. Brilliant to see you joining us again this evening, my friend. He says here, I once skived off school by putting my forehead against the radiator.
Classic.
Putting my forehead against the radiator for a while, then getting my mother to take my temperature. Some amateur dramatics later, and I was off school and round at my nan's to eat absolutely anything she supplied. Cracking day.
Brilliant.
Amazing. I wonder if his parents know that yet.
I hope they're watching. I really hope they're watching or listening. Dan, now you've got some info on your brother, you can now bribe him, blackmail him for something.
I mean, he's left school a long time ago. He's got his own house. He
No,
probably
but
doesn't care that much anymore.
mums never forget. Mums never forget, and they never forgive.
The other Griffin brother, at Dan Griffin 21, he says here, though, in comparison, I've never skived off school or work. I call bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. But when I was sick as a kid, it was all Disney films. The 90s Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons, and game shows like Blockbusters or 15 to 1. The last time I was off sick from work, I watched 3 seasons of Doom Patrol and loads of wrestling. Right, I don't know what Doom Patrol is, and I completely forgot.
Heard of that.
No, nor me. I completely forgot 15 to 1 even existed until it was brought up for this topic, and I was like, I don't know what. My mind was just dominated with Blockbusters and Going for Gold.
You forgot William G. Robinson, the host.
I don't even know that.
15 to 1.
I know 15 to 1, but I don't remember that dude.
He was the host.
Okay. I can't picture him. I can picture everyone stood in like a semicircle, the lights on. That's the same one, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I think it's in the second round where you nominate people to get them to answer a question wrong, and then they get voted off. Yeah.
Okay. They should bring stuff like that back.
I think it's still on, or it was on, because Sandy Toksvik was hosting it for a while.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Steve-O, at Total Steve-O on Twitter. He says here, I've never skived off to watch anything. However, when ill, and I have to stay in, which I hate, it'll always be my continuous history of Attitude Era that's coming to an end soon. The Bill, some YouTube videos. Yeah, obviously the Bill. Yeah, he's been obsessed, and he fair play with him. When off recently, recovering from surgery, I watched Line of Duty. I tried to watch other series, many I couldn't get into, but discovered a British show called Liar. That was great. Went back to rewatch Peep Show for the 8th time, and rewatching for the 4th time Detectorists. What's Detectorists?
I've never heard of that, but Peep Show it's a staple in this house.
Yeah, I love Peep Show. It's great. I remember when I dislocated my knee when I was 15, Steve-O continues. Every day for 6 weeks, I watched Die Hard 3 and Lock Stock. As you can guess, I know every word. Why Die Hard 3 over and over again?
Yeah. I mean, it's not the best of the Die Hards.
It's good, but if you're stuck in for 6 weeks, you could just watch all of them, no matter which one's the best or not, can you?
Yeah, just like one a day for your Die Hards. And I like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I think some of Guy Ritchie's films have been absolutely amazing, but I don't think I'd like it as much if I was watching it every day for 6 weeks.
But then he says he was 15, so it's a different mentality when you're a kid, isn't it?
I think it would be even worse, surely, because your attention span is surely shorter.
I don't know. When I was younger than 15, I would watch the original Ghostbusters movie over and over and over again when I was a kid. But I'm talking like single digits here.
Okay. Now, imagine doing that at 15, though. And we're slating poor Steve-O. He was injured, obviously. I mean, if he wants to watch Lock, Stock, that's absolutely fine. But it seems a lot. Six weeks in a row every day.
Every day for 6 weeks. So 7 days. That's 42 times you watched that film.
Yeah. I mean, he may have watched it multiple times per day.
Why? Steve-O, figure out how many times you watched it in that period and message the show, mate.
Yeah. I mean, 2 hours ago, on average for a film, it could easily fit in 6 a day.
6 a day. So, I'm not even going to try and figure that one out. At 5 Nerds Go, they say here, many, many times he would skive off and watch Takeshis Castle. Oh, that used to be one batshit crazy show, didn't it?
Yeah. Did anyone ever actually win it as well? Because
like a handful of people.
Really, I don't remember seeing anyone win it, because the last kind of challenge was always rigged, where you had that paper ring on your stupid little go-kart thing, and you had to not get the paper ring shot by the water cannons, and the Emperor Guard or the Imperial Guard always seemed to be able to bust the paper ring. So I don't think I remember seeing anybody win it.
I think I have seen. I don't know if I saw it on the show itself, or if it was one of those videos that pops up on like YouTube or whatever saying, "Here are the people who have won Takeshis Castle," so you get to watch it in that. And bugger all happens. You get a couple of fireworks, and that's about it. It's like, after all that mucking around, was that worth the effort? You know? Yeah,
and I remember one of the games that they played, the floating stones. That looked like it broke people. Literally broke them. When they try and run across these stones, which were the majority of them were solid, but every now and again one would be just floating, and you put any weight on it and it'd sink. And you'd see people do that and then crash into another stone, or their legs would look like they do the splits. Yeah, it looked horrific.
5 Minutes Go, continue. Ninja Warrior, similar sort of thing, isn't it? Just people running around getting walloped by shit.
Yep, pretty much.
15-1 and Golden Balls. Golden Balls was good. That was Jasper Carrot, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was one of those game shows, I think, that didn't outstay its welcome. I think it only run for maybe 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah, the steal or split thing, where you basically had to lie first of all about how much money you had on your front row and on your back row, and then when you have a massive pot of money and you think, oh, we'll share this money. Yeah, let's share. We'll split. And then some twat goes, I'm taking the lot. And then or when they both are twats and they both say steal and then they get nothing. Brilliant show.
What would you do, Maxie, if you were in that situation?
I would split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd feel guilty.
Yeah,
I'd feel guilty if I basically stole all the money and then the other person's going on with the bus fare home. Yeah.
yeah. Fair enough. Jeremy Kyle or Kilroy? Bloody hell, Kilroy, that's a blast from the past, isn't it?
I mean, Kilroy was a bit more upper class than Jeremy Kyle. Jeremy Kyle was
That's not difficult, mate, is it? Do you know what I mean? Jeremy Kyle was as low as you can get.
I mean, if you had your full set of teeth when you went on Jeremy Kyle, you was better than 99% of the other guests. Yeah. Jeremy Kyle, Jesus Christ. That was a grim show. The good thing about it is it made you feel better about your own life because you knew that there were scumbags way worse than you out there.
There was a few people from Gloucester on it for one episode.
Shock! I wouldn't be surprised if the studio wasn't in Gloucester.
No, it was up north, mate. It was closer to you.
Fuck you.
It was.
I know it was.
A bit more of a catchment area that way, look. Friends reruns, yeah? I mean, they seem to be on all the time anyway, don't they? So you're going to catch them at some stage.
Not a show that I'm massively bothered about. If it's on and there's nothing else on, it's like background music, I suppose. It was inoffensive. It was an inoffensive show, wasn't it?
It was funny in the early days, mate, but it's one of those that went on for too long, isn't it?
Yeah.
Last season was funny as well, but yeah, it went on a bit too long. And then 5 Nerds Go say cartoons like SpongeBob. Now, I never watched SpongeBob because it came out when I was a bit older.
Yeah, I was too old for SpongeBob. I've seen some of it, and I don't really get it.
I know a group of people my age did start watching it, but they're all stoners. So I think it was just a case of they just sit around getting stoned and watching that. And Takeshis Castle was a show you'd watch when you were stoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I've heard. Allegedly.
Yeah. So I've been told, kids, if you're in the chat. At Pigs Bladders on Twitter. They say here, a group of us went to school, skived off before it started, but the school was in a village 5 miles from home. Couldn't risk walking on the roads and getting caught, so went across country. Took us 6 hours to get home. Arrived about 15 minutes earlier than if we'd have stayed.
What? Wow, that is bad. You'd have just stayed at school.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
Live and learn, though. Live and learn.
That's a long old track as well, isn't it? 5 miles home. Yeah,
but for it to get home, basically, when you probably would have got home if you'd just stayed in school. That's brutal. That's a brutal, hard lesson to learn.
Connor Knows Soccer at Connor Knows Footy on Twitter. He says here he skipped school to watch the World Cup draw. Brilliant. And he also skipped school because he had
wasn't it only on for like half an hour?
Oh no, those things go on for like 2 years, don't they? The draw, it goes on for so long.
I think yeah, I suppose. But to skip a whole day of school for it.
He also says here he skipped school because he had COVID apparently on transfer deadline day, but COVID is written very much with speech marks around it, so he obviously didn't have COVID and just wanted to watch. Yeah. That's it for Twitter actually, Magsy, I think, unless I've missed anyone.
I don't think so. Yep, that's everyone. But you've got some WhatsAppers, I assume.
Yep. I've got one via WhatsApp, and that comes from Charlie. I worry about the day Charlie's old enough to decide, you know what, I wouldn't mind having a Twitter. And all the reprobates that watch our shows, you know, she follows them because she recognises the names. That scares me, mate. But anyway, Charlie says via WhatsApp, if she's off school, she's either sleeping, staying in her bed, and watching Wilbur Soot, who is her favourite YouTuber. And she watches that guy do videos over and over and over again. So,
who is it? Who's he? What videos does he do?
He does all sorts. He also makes a bit of music as well. And when we went on holiday, like I said, we had a sort of Spotify playlist we all assembled. She put on Wilbur Soot songs on the playlist, and I'll be honest, most of it's not my cup of tea. But there's one or two I thought this is all right, you know. Morty in the chat there saying, Christ, don't let her follow Fitch. Oh, my goodness, yeah. Thankfully, Charlie's got no interest in social media at the moment. You know,
Good.
but she's 13 in a couple of months. So I think that may change soon. So that, yeah, be interesting. It'd be interesting. And lastly, via Twitter DMs, we have Andy from Bang Bang Podcast. And he says here, obviously, my love of Neighbours is well documented. So my days off school were coordinated with exciting storylines. When Joe Mangle's wife died, I took the day off in tribute.
I wonder how he commemorated the last ever Neighbours, because it's officially finished now, isn't it, Neighbours?
Yeah, it's been
cancelled. Is it though? I mean, who was watching it apart from Andy?
Yeah, that's true. To be fair, Sharon, I noticed on the box downstairs, the last episode has been recorded on our cable box, and I am intrigued to watch it in a kind of morbid, this is the end kind of way.
Okay. I think the last time I remember watching it was when Harold Bishop got amnesia and he didn't think he was Harold. Did he get trapped in a fishing net or something like that and nearly drowned?
Did he fall off a cliff?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But into the ocean, went it? And then he basically didn't drown because of the fishing net.
That makes sense, yeah.
But then he got amnesia and he wasn't Harold. That's the last I remember watching it. So that must be 25 years ago. Yeah.
Apparently, Madge Bishop was in the last episode, but her character's been dead for a long time, so she appeared as a ghost.
It's a ghost! Brilliant.
I don't know if that actually happened, but that's one of the rumours I read building up to it.
What they should have done is gone the classic Kylie Minogue coming out of the shower and just like on Dallas going, I've just had the weirdest dream. And just the last 25 years of Neighbours just being her fever dream.
I'd watch Kylie Minogue coming out the shower, mate. No worries about that.
That's why I said, or Jason, maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe. And then Bouncer the dog just runs around the corner. He's still alive, and everything's just back to the way it was. You know, Joe Mangle's missus, she's still about as well. She was shot, weren't she? I can remember her walking through. I think she was protesting something. I want to say protesting people shooting animals. And then ironically,
she got shot. Oh my God, on the nose there, Neighbours.
I think anyway. I may be wrong about that. Somebody in the chat's bound to let us know. Joe Mangle's missus, when she got shot.
This would be the ideal time to just strong arming the Neighbours theme tune for the audio version.
Well, maybe that will happen. Speaking of the audio version, and people are listening to the audio version now, they will know this already. But people in the chat, if you listen to the audio version later in the week, it will be a day late this week. I did put a tweet out on Twitter saying that, but yeah, certain things have popped up and so on, circumstances. It will be a day late this week, so just so everyone's aware. Andy does actually continue though, Magsy. In skiving-related news, when I was doing GCSE drama, my small group of 8 male friends were given 6 weeks to come up with a piece which we'd perform and get graded on for our final mark. We were left to our own devices, so we all went round my house, smoked fags, and read the paper. He says, my mum was working in a bookies at the time, so we would ring her up and she would put bets on for us whilst we were watching the racing on TV. We all got D's in drama. The teacher, who turned out to be a nonce, he says here in brackets, said our final piece was, and he quotes, fucking shit.
Brilliant. But more importantly, did you win on any bets?
Well, there's no further information, I'm afraid, brother. I can't give you any follow-ups on that.
And we need inquiring minds need to know how much you won on those bets. What should be 3 and 6pence?
He said it was GCSE drama. Did he say that? Well, it was drama anyway. Okay. So he'd have been 16, 17. So I'm intrigued. How much money do you have as a 16-year-old to bet with?
Is 20 pence pocket money?
Well, yeah, I suppose. Magsy, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Dan. Not really a scarving person. Never ever scarved school ever. if I was ever ill, I'd watch a lot of the same kind of things that have been mentioned in the chat. But there, I suppose there is one that I should mention. First of all, I'm on the same lines as Connor. For me, transfer deadline day is like Christmas, so that's a day that I will definitely take off work, and the TV will be permanently on Sky Sports to watch all the happenings in the transfer window. But the other major one is I booked a full week off work when Metal Gear Solid 4 was released, so I could play through the whole game.
Okay.
I ended up completing it in one sitting all the way through, and if you know anything about that game, it's got dozens of hours of video, so it's like essentially watching a 2-day movie. That was brutal, but yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing game. I can't wait to play it again. I haven't played it in so long, but yeah, booked a full week off work just to play Metal Gear Solid.
That's something we should check out for a non-wrestling topic, isn't it? Old computer games we loved or played, or memories from arcades.
There we go. Next week's topic. Give it early.
Okay, there we go. We'll do that. Don't start tweeting in yet, because I'll just freaking lose them all.
Wait for the tweet to remind you, but giving you some more thinking time.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't go to art at school for about 3 months. Hated it.
Oh, I definitely went to art. Art was one of my favourite subjects, not because I was good at art or I had any interest in art, but the art teacher was pretty fit.
Yeah. You said about this before.
We would drop our pencils and get a peek up her skirt quite regularly.
Naughty, Mags, naughty. Yeah, mine was more to do with the teacher. I couldn't stand the bloke. He was a dick. And we used to just go around my mate's house, play guitar, watch Guns N' Roses videos and so on, because he lived just around the corner. When I was bunking off and go for the day, I would wait for my parents to go to work. I would go into the house, sit down, have a bite to eat, and I would do the same as everyone else. I'd watch certain stuff, maybe old wrestling tapes or whatever. But I knew when Neighbours was starting, was it 1 o'clock or 1:30? Neighbours would be on, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it used to be on twice a day, didn't it? You
Yeah.
get like the episode from yesterday's evening broadcast, and then you get the latest one.
Yeah,
later in the day, I think.
I knew I had to be out the house by the time Neighbours started, because that's when my dad would
get
time.
rumbled.
Yeah, because that's when my dad would time come, because he was a driving instructor, so he could pick his own breaks and whatever. That's when he would time coming home to have a sandwich and a cup of tea, because he'd watch Neighbours for his lunch and then go back out to work again. So I should have to sit over the road and wait for my dad's car to disappear after Neighbours. So, yeah, but that's kind of it, really, mate, for me. We got caught quite often, me and my sister. We get caught.
Shock.
You know, there was one occasion where we'd walk in the gates, one end of the school, walk straight through the school, across the field, out the back gate, and my dad had already drove around the back and stopped there waiting for us. So,
because he knew what you were going to do.
Oh, totally,
Brilliant.
Totally rumbled us. Yeah.
Did you not ever stay for registration and then piss off afterwards? That was the thing. That was the thing that was done in my school. People would like get the registration mark and then they'd disappear, and you'd never see them again till tomorrow.
Amazing. No, I don't think I did. Maybe in the afternoon. I get, because you have 2 registrations, wouldn't you? I get the second registration after lunch and then just go home.
I mean, to clock that you're in there.
Yeah,
so on the
basically.
On the records, you attended.
Which is bad, really, isn't it? When you think about it, if there's a fire, they go by that register.
Oh no, Sars burnt. He's caught in the fumes. I mean, I don't know what he was doing in pottery, but
yeah, that's it then, really. So thank you so much to everybody, as always, for sending in your non-wrestling topics, and everybody in the chat and so on, retweeting and so on as well during the week. It's been great. It's some brilliant stories, some brilliant stuff. It always fascinates me as well how so many people from all over the place would do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Sit at home and watch 15-1, or sit at home and watch Going for Gold, or whatever, you know.
I mean, that was almost like an education. I mean, you're hearing questions that you probably couldn't answer. You might as well have just gone to bloody school.
Yeah, Going for Gold, wasn't that the one as well that they had like an international version.
Yeah, that was it. It was nations, but it generally was the English that won because it was very kind of xenophobic.
Yeah, all the questions were about being English.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the Italian guy would be just stood there like, what?
Babbity boobity.
Oh man, Magsy, shall we talk a little wrestling, mate?
Yeah, finally. I mean, it seems like ages since we've talked some wrestling, so let's
Been a couple of weeks.
Let's get ready to rumble!
This week's wrestling topic, the winner of the poll, well, the poll itself was very 1995 Shawn Michaels heavy, but the winner was the 1995 Royal Rumble match, where Shawn booked his place in the title match, not the main event, but the title match at WrestleMania 11. I like going through Royal Rumbles. Scottish Danny in the chat there. Wrestling, I thought this was a Baywatch podcast. Well, sorry to disappoint, my friend. Sorry to disappoint. It is not a Baywatch podcast.
Maybe
But
next
coming
week.
up
Depends what the
very
link's
soon-
going to be.
Coming up very soon on the SJP World. No, I'm joking. It's not going to happen. I always enjoy going back through Royal Rumbles because, first of all, it's just a great match format, isn't it? But then, secondly, when it came to choosing my link for next week, there's so many options.
Yeah.
And I think with all the different entrants, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, I think I see Royal Rumbles on this show as kind of like a palate cleanser. With some of the matches and the wrestling we've picked, it's very lineal to where we go. You've usually got one or two people you can pick from, or maybe a tag team or whatever. But with a Rumble, it's essentially free for all. You've got 30 wrestlers. You've got just endless paths you can go down.
Yeah, definitely. This Royal Rumble, a couple of things that I suppose need bearing in mind with regards to how it was produced, I guess, as opposed to what we see in more recent years. First of all, there was no music on people's entrances other than the first two, which that was very common in the early Rumbles. But here, I think this is the last one we have that for. I'm fairly certain in 96 we have entrance music for the Rumble with everybody.
Yeah, which makes sense because that's when I think we see WWF wrestling music become more mainstream. They start obviously releasing it as albums, and the music starts becoming more popular, more rocky, I suppose. So it does make sense that they start introducing the wrestlers with their music because the music was part of the characters.
Yeah. And also the biggest difference here, 30 seconds in between entrance, Magsy. What did you
60.
find? How did you Sorry?
Did you mean 60?
60 seconds between entrance. How did you find that?
In one way, I can see the point of it. It keeps the show, keeps the match a little bit more exciting. I mean, how many times have we covered a Royal Rumble and said it's very samey because wrestlers are punch, kick, clothesline, hugging, pretending to be throwing people over the ropes, and that the shortening the time kind of cuts down a lot of that. But it also doesn't give the wrestlers a lot of time to breathe in the ring. So there is kind of like a good and bad about it. I do believe that the whole point of it was because the roster was so threadbare and it's so lacking in star power that that Vince wanted to make it feel more exciting. I suppose wrestlers coming in every 6 seconds does do that. It keeps the action flowing. But yeah, it was weird. I don't think they've ever gone back to 60 seconds since, is it? I think it's usually like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So yeah, it was 1995 was a weird time.
Yeah. I mean, you say about the roster being pretty much threadbare and so on. You're spot on. You look down the 30 names in this Rumble, and then look at the rest of the card as well. I mean, on the show, but not in the Rumble, you had Razor Ramon, you had Jeff Jarrett, you had Diesel, who was the champion at the time, and you had Bret Hart. So that's 4 names that were, would have been on a card at any other time. But the Rumble itself, you look down that list of 30 guys, it really could have done with those 4 in it as well, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw an article by What Culture as well, who were doing kind of like facts about the 95 Royal Rumble, and to kind of show just how quick this match went. They said that 11 of the wrestlers actually went 3 minutes or less in terms of ring time, and 7 of those 11, so more than half of that 11 were in the Rumble for less than 25 seconds. I think there's 2 people who are in it for like 3 seconds, a few that are in it for like 10 to 12 seconds. It was very fast paced. And then on the kind of the other end of the spectrum, there was only 6 people that went more than 10 minutes. A couple of names that you wouldn't expect. I think Aldo Montoya goes 10 minutes. I think one of the Godwins maybe goes 10 minutes. And then obviously the 2 numbers 1 and 2, Luger goes longer than 10 minutes. It was quite shocking to see these statistics. I mean, obviously, I think it's the shortest Rumble ever, in less than 40 minutes from bell to bell. I can understand why they went back to a longer time. Yeah, it was jarring to watch.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll start off then where we should, which is at the beginning. The whole premise of Pamela Anderson and the WWF and so on here. Pammy is apparently going to escort the winner of the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania for the title match. So she is, a big theme running through this event. We have her coming out before the match, waving to the crowd, and then sitting at ringside. And the camera cuts to her every now and again.
One interesting point, when you see her limo pulling up at the beginning of the show,
yes,
and there's a bunch of wrestlers there, basically ogling her, and you see, I think it's Tatanka. He looks like he wants to actually wrestle her, because he's doing the whole come on,
yeah.
and it's like, you fucking weirdo, Tatanka. I mean, was Tatanka even in the Rumble?
No,
I don't.
He was in a tag match.
So he had absolutely no chance of being led to WrestleMania with Pammy. So what the fuck was that tosser doing there?
Well, he weren't trying to tempt her like that, was he? He was trying to tempt her as in, come on, take this drink that I've definitely not put anything in. That's the vibe I got from Tatanka anyway.
Yeah, and we get that vibe later on when I think Todd Pettingill he has a couple of backstage segments with Pammy, and he comes across as a fucking weirdo creep. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So bad. So those skits are so bad. I mean, first of all, why is she getting changed with him still in the room with a camera? That's on her, I think, first of all. Right? But then the way he's acting, dude, have a word with yourself.
Yeah. Oh, it's cringer. It's absolutely cringer. But when she comes out to the ring, she looks like she doesn't want to be there. I mean, obviously she's there because she's been paid, and then all the cross promotion with Baywatch and things like that. I get it, but she gets in the ring, waves, gets out the ring, goes and sits down, and every time the camera kind of throws to her during the match, she looks bored. There's one point where she actually signals to the camera, "Look, watch the wrestling," because I couldn't give a toss. And then, I mean, we'll get to the end, but even at the end, it felt like she just absolutely did not want to be there whatsoever.
Now, again, going back to when I used to listen to Bruce Pritchard's podcast on a regular basis, before it became 95% fucking adverts and reruns and so on. That's why people listen to this show, because we're better than them. But they covered this sort of time, and Pamela Anderson and so on. And apparently, according to Bruce Pritchard, in the 95 Rumble, she was a joy to work with. She was fantastic. She said apparently she was incredibly nervous and unsure of herself, but was on time. She did anything they'd ask. She just threw herself into it all. By the time WrestleMania had come around, her attitude had completely changed. and
Okay.
that was when she was more how you
diva.
described how she appeared. Yeah, she didn't want to be there. She acted this way and that way and so on, which is really interesting for me because this is the end of January, as the Rumble always is. It's not a big time difference, is it, between the Rumble and Mania for her to have that complete attitude change?
No, you're absolutely right. But maybe it was because it was new, something she'd never done before, and she was, like I said, excited and nervous. But then when it gets to WrestleMania, maybe she had people blowing smoke up her ass. You're amazing, or maybe she had issues with Diesel and Shawn Michaels. Who knows? Maybe. But yeah, it's famous people. They are notorious for being tossers, aren't they?
Yes, they are indeed. They are indeed. Speaking of tossers, Shawn Michaels comes out at number 1, and the British Bulldog is famously number 2. Shawn comes out with TK written on his like a heart badge on his glove, which apparently is a reference to his girlfriend at the time. And these guys basically go the whole duration of the match, as everyone I'm sure is aware. I mean, you shout spoiler alert or whatever. It's nearly 30 years old, this contest, so kind of is what it is. But what I find really interesting with this Rumble, Magsy, is that you had, you know how we've discussed in the past how the ring will fill up before somebody clears it out?
Yeah.
You know, like I suppose you go to the year before this, you had it with Diesel, didn't you? The ring would fill up for Diesel to come down and then clear it out. Here, I think that happens on 2 separate occasions in this really short period of time. But obviously, the guys that are clearing the ring out are Shawn and the Bulldog because they're always in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that absolutely
makes different, isn't it? It's completely different.
Yeah, because normally we get a big man coming in and clearing out, and even though there are a few big men in this, none of that kind of stature in the WWF where they needed or should have had the rub of clearing out of the ring. Clearly, the 2 stars in this match were number 1 and 2, and from the What Culture article that I read, the actual going Broadway for Shawn Michaels was obviously a Vince McMahon thing.
I don't know if
we've lost silent there.
No?
Have you still got me there, sir?
Yeah, we lost you a little bit, mate. You said going Broadway was for Shawn Michaels was a Vince McMahon thing, and then we kind of lost you. You're frozen again, my friend. I don't know if anyone can hear me. If anyone's in the chat, let us know if you can hear me or you can hear Magsy.
Am I back? Man,
you're back.
Went very robotic then. Okay, so yeah, I was saying Shawn Michaels being number 1 was a Vince McMahon idea, but Bulldog going Broadway as well, that was actually pushed by Pat Patterson, because obviously we get that controversial ending with Shawn Michaels, and we'll cover it in detail when we get there, with the kind of skinning the cat and the 1 foot touching the ground. Pat Patterson actually pushed for Bulldog to go Broadway because it gave them the guarantee that if something went wrong and Shawn Michaels let go of the rope, they still had a winner who had been in the ring from the beginning. So it was kind of like a guarantee that they would have that Broadway winner.
Like a safety net, I suppose, isn't it? That's quite clever.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite clever. Fair play. There's a couple of guys in this Rumble. The first of all that I'll come to, Rick Martel, when I've got notes next to their names that simply says, in 1995, question mark.
Right,
because...
so Rick Martel, again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but he was actually, again, this What Culture article. I hate praising What Culture because they piss me off. But, yeah. But they said that Rick Martel was actually a last-minute replacement because it should have been Jim the Anvil Neidhart, but he'd been missing shows up to this point on a regular basis, and he'd essentially been cut from the company, and Rick was basically the last minute replacement.
Why? I mean, he does wrestle in 95 in WCW. I think he has either as a TV title run or a
It's
TV
the
title
TV title.
match.
Yeah, TV title run. Yeah, he was champion.
Yeah, okay. But I don't imagine Rick Martel still being around at this time. So that really threw me when I saw. Don't get me wrong, I've seen this match a few different times, of course I have. But when Martel came out, I was a bit like, okay, in '95, that threw me a bit. But I wasn't aware of the whole Neidhart stuff. So yeah, that's really interesting. But I mean, Martel comes in at number 10. Owen Hart comes in at number 11. At this stage, we've only had one person eliminated. So we're a third of the way into the Rumble. And again, you've got to remember, obviously, the different time restraints, I guess, a minute rather than 2 and so on between the entrants. But numbers-wise, it still is so different to what we're used to. Because here we are a third of the way in when Owen Hart comes in at number 11. Past a third of the way. And we've still got everyone barring one in there.
Was it Jimmy Del Rey that got eliminated first? I think it was him. But yeah, I mean,
bodies, that's right.
you look at the quality in the ring at the time. I mean, Eli Blue was in there. I think Duke the Dumpster was in. Like Jimmy Del Rey being in. Barbarian was in, which I forgot that he was actually in it. I used to love the Barbarian. I think
under a different name though, Sion.
Yeah, I think he was part of. Was he part of the Head Shrinkers at this time? I think.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you had the other Heavenly Body. I think it was Tom Pritchard. But yeah, this ring was filling up very, very quickly because of the minute between entrants. And another thing I want to touch on, and again, what culture? Looking at the 30 entrants in this Rumble, by the end of 1995. 18 of them have been cut from the company.
Oh, wow.
18 of them. Yeah. The only other time that's happened is in 1993. Exactly the same number. 18 who were in the 93 Royal Rumble had left the company by the end of the year. I mean, so you had the Blue Brothers had gone, Jimmy Del Rey had gone, Barbarian, Doink, Rick Martel, Bushwhackers, King Kong Bundy, Men on a Mission have both gone, and this is Mabel, who wins this year's King of the Ring, the 1995 King of the Ring, and then has the title match. He's gone by the end of the year. Manto's gone by the end of the year. Dick Murdoch, Adam Bomb, Crush, Luger. So only 12 of them. Only 12 of them saw out the year.
And you think how you use the term threadbare for the roster anyway, how that would affect it going forward, because it wasn't like I mean, you'll know more than I, Magsy, looking back on the Attitude Era and going into 96 and so on with a change in attitude and that, but it wasn't like a lot of those guys were replaced, I don't think. If you look at like the Monday Night Raws from going into 96, it was very Shawn heavy, Brett heavy, and so on, Diesel and so on, wasn't it? It wasn't like you had a lot of fresh blood. Am I remembering that right, or?
Yeah, I mean, you had Austin and Triple H coming. Then you had Goldust come in. Savio Vega comes in, and you see a hell of a lot of them. Certainly not enough to replace 18. The early Raws in 1996 were very much around maybe 8 people. All told, like 8 characters who were on the show weekly. So yeah, it was very, very threadbare going well into 1996.
Yeah, interesting. And a lot of those names you mentioned there that were gone by the end of 95 are the ones that I've got 1995 question mark next to in my notes. So the fact that the Bushwhackers are still there in 95 blew my mind. I couldn't get my head around that. I thought they were gone 92, whatever. You know, that amazed me. King Kong Bundy, I'm aware he came back. But
the human thumb. Jesus Christ.
But at the
he
same time,
looks so much like a thumb.
He does, mate. He does. But again, Bundy in the Rumble in 95, it just seemed... We're getting Shawn here, his rise up to the main event spot. He is... In ring, Shawn Michaels at this point, he is already, or if not already, definitely on his way to being the best this company has. You know, so he's very much on his way there. So it's going into a different era. And you mentioned in 96 as well, all the different faces they bring in. And then you look at this Rumble and you think, so close to that time, you still had, Dick Murdoch turning up, the Bushwhackers, Mo and Mabel. It's just like it amazed me. Mantar's still there for fuck's sake. Quang. Yeah,
and he survived the 1995 cull. He was still there in 1996.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how different this company is in 95 to 96 and then 97. It's amazing. Dan in the chat there. Bundy looked like a porky version of the thumb creatures from Spy Kids.
Yeah, he so did. He absolutely did.
Oh dear. When Bushwhacker Luke comes in at 13, that's when we clear the ring out for the first time, and we're back down to the original two of Michaels and the Bulldog. But during this time, Michaels obviously he's got his working boots on here, hasn't he? He's effectively half eliminated several occasions and holds on and spins himself back in, or he's upside down on the ropes, clinging on with his leg on one aspect or whatever, which to me is fantastic. Shows how athletic and talented the guy is. But the other side of that, and this is where I get frustrated with Raw Rumbles, especially earlier ones, you get people like the Bulldog, like Duke the Dumpster, and even Crush as well towards the end of the match, where they have Shawn Michaels literally above their head, whether it's in a bear hug position or a gorilla press or military press or however you want to word it. And all they got to do is just walk a yard, tip him over the top, he's out. But they slam him back into the ring. That really takes me out of the moment, Magsy, because it's like, well, don't you want to win the match?
Yeah, and getting, when we get closer to the end, even Jerry Lawler, who's on commentary with Vince McMahon, he makes a few comments about Lex Luger saving Shawn Michaels, which he does multiple times. And this is Michaels, who's meant to be a heel, and Lex Luger, who was up till recently the number one babyface. I mean, yeah, it's obvious that it was scripted. This was incredibly scripted. That Shawn Michaels was to be kind of like the '92 Ric Flair. Everybody is gunning for Shawn Michaels, and he's going to be the person that outlasts them all. Where with Ric Flair, it didn't look obvious, and whether that's because of the talent they had just that short 3 years earlier compared to the talent that they've got now, I think that may be a big factor, but it just doesn't compare to Ric Flair's performance and the performance of Shawn Michaels in this. And that's not to say Shawn Michaels is at fault for this. He's not. I think he was outstanding in this Rumble. A lot of emotion from him. I think he did the best with the tools that he had. Unfortunately, those tools were some subpar wrestlers.
Fucking Bushwhackers.
I mean, every time the Bushwhackers win a Rumble, though, it was for the comedy value. They come in, if they lasted in the ring more than 10 seconds, they'd lick somebody's head and then they'd get clotheslined over. They were the comedy ones. It's just, as you stated, the majority of the big stars were actually already in singles or in matches before the Rumble. So it was so short of star power that Shawn Michaels and to a slightly lesser extent Bulldog had to carry this match. They had to be the focal point because you're not going to have Barbarian as the focal point. He's a good hand. You're not going to have Mo as the focal point. Rick Martel, the Bushwhackers. It was on these two people.
Yeah, without a doubt. Somebody who I thought this is my own mistake, but something else that happened during this Rumble that got a good crowd reaction, and maybe it was done in a way to help with how thin the talent roster was Bret Hart, who was obviously elsewhere on the card. He runs out a couple of times and attacks a couple of competitors. Now, the first one he attacks is Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Okay. So he runs out and he attacks Owen Hart during Owen Hart's entrance. And then Bret walks off and the camera cuts to the entranceway to see the next competitor come out, who was Timothy Well from the tag team Well Done.
Yeah.
The crowd go mad. Like super, super happy. And I'm sat there thinking, Jesus, Timothy Well was over, wasn't he? What? I don't remember him being that over. And then they show a replay, and it's actually the crowd are cheering because Owen's been thrown in the ring and then thrown back out again. So the crowd reaction was for Owen Hart's elimination. But the way the camera made it look was that Timothy Well was like Hulk Hogan coming out for a moment.
So because it's been a while since I watched this, I forgot that they did that replay. So I actually was skipping back to watch the elimination on the Tartantron behind Bret Hart going backstage, and you can just make out Bulldog essentially backdropping Owen over the ring, over the ropes. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I had to actually do that a couple of times because there's another really quick elimination. I think it's one of the bushwhackers for like 3 seconds, and you watch that again on the Tartantron because he's not in the ring long enough for it to cut back to the ring.
Yeah, but I just honestly, for about 10 seconds, I was like, I don't remember Timothy well being this over. This guy's a superstar. Somebody who does get a good crowd reaction, though, was Lex Luger, who comes out at number 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here, we all know my thoughts on Luger. Certain areas of his career I enjoy, this time not so much. But I think we can look here and use Luger as a comparison. The same with the Bulldog, the same with Michaels. They've got a certain look. When you put them up against the likes of Mo or the Eli Blue, the Godwins, even Crush, who was a massive guy, but at this stage was wearing that awful ring gear with a silly face paint and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Luger looks like a WWF main eventer.
Yeah.
The Bulldog and Michaels look like WWF wrestlers. The other guys, they just don't look on that level, do they?
No, I mean, you look at Moore or Mabel, Mantar, and compare them to Luger. Yeah, they don't belong. It's as simple and clear as that. They don't belong in the same ring, and that's not on wrestling prowess. It's just on. You could pin a world title on Lex Luger and it looked legitimate because he looked carved out of granite. You couldn't necessarily put a title on Mantar and it would look stupid. It absolutely would. But one thing about Luger, obviously he's coming off the last Royal Rumble where they had the draw, something that Vince comments on, that you could tell he hated that decision or he bitterly regretted it because he said, I don't think we'll ever see another draw in the history of the Royal Rumble.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was clever at the time, but it didn't pan out as well as Vince had hoped. But one thing about Luger that I noticed was he was teaming with Bulldog quite a lot, and there was a spot where he was almost eliminated. I think it was from Mantar, and Bulldog saves him, and he goes to hit Bulldog, and then sees it's Bulldog and pulls away. And I think this is just before we get that Allied Powers partnership between the guys. So at least we're getting a little bit of kind of foreshadowing of what's going to come with Luger and Bulldog basically looking after each other. I thought that was a neat touch.
Mm. I think those two could have worked. We spoke about it before, haven't we? But I think they could have worked as a tag team. I think didn't they open that year's WrestleMania? I might get that wrong, but I think they might have opened that year's WrestleMania.
I believe so.
There's a couple of moments I do want to bring up before we get on to our sort of concluding the match and so on. Every Rumble to me has certain things. It's also like box ticking. You have a big name that comes out early on. Okay, we've got that with Michaels and the Bulldog and so on. You have the Iron Man, I suppose, for want of a better term, who does a long distance. Here, obviously, we've got the two guys who start the Rumble and finish the Rumble. You also then, I think, get almost like a big man standoff, whether that's like where you had with a previous Rumble we've looked at with Yokozuna and Earthquake. They both stand across the ring from each other and the crowd goes crazy for that. And you've had it in more recent years with some of the massive guys that they have on the roster there, the Big Show and Carly and all that sort of stuff. Here, it's Mabel and King Kong Bundy. It's just not the same, is it?
No. It's like if you ordered your Royal Rumble big men from Wish.
Yeah.
All the big greats that we've had in the WWF and 1995's best that they could offer was Mabel and King Thumb Bundy. Jesus.
Yes, indeed. Billy Gunn arrives at number 23. I think he's potentially got the best entrance of the whole Rumble because he sprints down the entranceway, incredibly enthusiastic, dives under the bottom rope, like John Cena used to sort of dive and slide in, didn't he? But he's got so much speed when he gets in there, he dives under the bottom rope, and it's lucky that no one's in his way because he slides the whole way across the ring to the corner. It was amazing.
Yep. Very energetic. Very, very energetic. And I think this is where it kind of shows perhaps some lazy booking from whoever organised the numbers, because I think his brother Bart comes out next.
Yes.
So that felt to me like, oh well, we've got to cram these numbers in somehow. We'll just like who hasn't been given a number. Oh well, you go in there and there. That felt a bit shoddy, but they're not in the match for that long, so it doesn't really matter.
Bob Backlund comes out at number 25, and that's when we see Brett again. He attacks Backlund and beats the crap out of him. Steve Dunn comes out at number 26. Now, interesting point with Steve Dunn is he was in the ring on Nitro the following year when Scott Hall came through the crowd and debuted.
Wow.
He was actually one of the wrestlers in the ring that was made very clear, you don't matter, shut up, Scott Hall's here now. So
pretty much.
And then at number 7... Yeah, he was, yeah. At number 7, Dick Murdoch.
27. Jesus
27,
Christ, not going all the way back. Yeah.
No.
Dick Murdoch, what a throwback. What an absolute throwback.
Here, he's 48 years of age. He looks 68.
Yeah. At first, I thought it was Dusty making yet another comeback. But unfortunately, it was the Wish version of Dusty.
Yes. And Dick Murdoch was actually dead probably within 18 months of this event. I don't think he saw 50. But he was also an incredibly nasty racist. So fuck Dick Murdoch. Crush is in last. And again, this shows, I suppose, how quick this Rumble is and how fast we build up the ring and the numbers in the ring. Because when Crush, when it goes, counts down and the horn goes off and Crush walks into the ring, there's 12 people still in the match.
Mm-hmm.
With the last competitor, 12 people still in the match, Mugsy.
Yep. And it seems to take a fairly long time for those to get whittled down as well. It's not like Crush comes in and does a clear out, because there's nobody in this match who really does a massive clear out of wrestlers. It's all kind of just naturally dwindled down, I suppose. One thing I did find interesting, and this will be a shout towards a very future episode of Nitro Nights, is we see the future Chronic in the ring together with Adam Bomb and Crush, the two Bryans, and it's actually Crush that eliminates Adam Bomb from this Royal Rumble, and then they go on to be Chronic. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
See, I didn't pick up on that, but that's yeah. Oh, why? Okay, that's pretty cool. Our final four, which is everyone makes a big deal every year, don't they, about who's in the final four. Our final four is Luger, Crush, Shawn Michaels, and the Bulldog. I think with what's in the Rumble, I mean, you could interchange Crush maybe for one or two others, but I think what's in the Rumble, that's probably the best final four they could have done, maybe.
I mean, we see the final four, but actually we get the kind of standoff with final five. So I don't appreciate you not giving Henry Godwin his props that he made the final five of a Royal Rumble. Yeah, but I agree with you. This was probably the best they could have done with the talent that they had. I mean, you've got the three biggest stars in the match with Michaels, Bulldog, and Luger, and then you've got a big man in Crush who was certainly a good hand in wrestling. Never someone who would ever be at the top of the card, but certainly someone you could trust to being a pretty high-profile match. So, yeah, I think it was the best of a bad lot.
Yeah, I agree. Michaels eliminates Luger to quite a mixed reaction. Bearing in mind, as you brought it up, Magsy, Michaels here is supposed to be a heel. Luger is supposed to be the all-American flag-waving babyface. Some people are cheering. Obviously, some people are still booing this, of course, but there's quite a mixed reaction to Luger going out, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe they already got bored of the kind of Captain America shtick. Obviously, he had a full year after winning last year's Rumble of him maybe being pushed as the next guy. Kind of fell off the rails at Mania when he wasn't crowned champion, and it just never happened for him. So maybe it was a case of why should we get behind him? Because it's clear that he's not going to be the guy. Obviously, Shawn Michaels was going to be the guy. He was quite clear. He was on the rocket to the moon, I suppose. So yeah, I can see why Luger wasn't as well received. And again, we touched on it before. He was essentially a WCW guy. So. Yeah. It was always going to be an uphill struggle for him to get this kind of a New York crowd to take him to their hearts, and it just never worked.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels and Crush kind of form a quite dodgy alliance for a short period of time. But I'm surprised
this is going to work, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm surprised because I would have thought Shawn would have been the guy to turn on Crush. But it was the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I assumed it was the other way, but
because Shawn is a sneaky little two-faced politicking bastard.
Well, there is that.
Or he was.
Yeah. Eventually, the Bulldog eliminates Crush, and we're down to our final two. For some reason, I thought this went on a lot longer.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
but it's about 90 seconds, isn't it?
If that, I don't think it's not even really that long. I when we got to the final two, I was kind of like getting myself ready to watch these two duking out, and yeah, very little happens. And like I said, it's over in next to no time.
Yeah. I mean, effectively, I'm assuming everyone has seen the finish anyway. If not, it's worth checking out because it's referenced every single year since. The Shawn Michaels rule: 2 feet must touch the floor. Michaels gets clothesline. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do tie up for a very short period, as Magsy and I just said. But and it is good what they do. It's high energy, and Michaels is bumping around. Eventually, he gets clotheslined over the top rope. The Bulldog turns to celebrate, but Michaels is holding on to the top rope, and the Bulldog has clearly seen this. But I think he must assume that he's touched the floor. I guess.
Well, the music plays. Bulldog's music plays. But knowing the finish as we do, like you said, it's almost 30 years old. You can see Michaels setting up for this. You can see how his arms are wrapped around the rope to make sure he's got as much leverage into keeping hold of the rope, so he only ever uses 1 foot on the ground. And again, thanks to What Culture, Vince McMahon told Shawn Michaels, do not milk this. Do not milk it. Touch the ground with 1 foot and then back in the ring. And Shawn Michaels, because he's a model employee, as normal, always does what Vince says. He absolutely milked it. And when you see the slow motion replay, you can see him so close to touching the ground with his other foot. It goes back onto the ring and then comes back off. Vince was having kittens when this was happening. He was going mental. And Shawn said he basically did it for as long as he could before his arms were starting to kind of like give way, and he had to get back into the ring. But yeah, amazing finish. One of the cleverest finishes that we've seen in a Royal Rumble. I felt so bad for Bulldog because this would have almost been like a really cool redemption for him, I suppose, from the hearts of SummerSlam 1992 to kind of middling off and then almost making it to being the top of the bill at WWF. I think he's one of those kind of wrestlers who you look at and think, what would have happened if he would have ever been world champion? And yeah, it's a shame for him, but this was Shawn Michaels' year. This was the year that cemented Shawn Michaels as the best around and one of the best to ever be in a wrestling ring. So, yeah, I just love this finish. I think it's so clever.
Revisited on indie shows the world over, still to this day, isn't it? Of any battle royals and so on, you see it so often. I mean, Sean's, athleticism here to not fall out the ring and look like he's struggling, I think is brilliant. He gets back in, obviously.
Especially after almost 40 minutes in ring.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
That often gets overlooked, the fact that he'd gone from number 1 40 minutes in the ring and still had the energy and the upper body strength to milk this and give Vince another hernia. It's I'm so impressed with him. So impressed with him.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. He is the star of the show, isn't he? Let's be honest on this event. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's not much competition, but he is the star of the show. He obviously pulls himself back into the ring, knocks the Bulldog over the top rope. His music hits. Then we get Pamela Anderson coming in the ring, and she kind of stands there while Sean hits her pose. And then Sean's got to go
hated that. Oh. She hated that.
He's got to go a little bit further though, Sean, hasn't he? And does some really weird, gyrating, pervy dancing towards her, and she
just leaves. She just leaves.
Yeah, she goes. Yeah, and that's it. Sean's on his way to Mania. So there we go. That's the 1995 Royal Rumble. Magsy, out of 10, my friend. What are we thinking?
Now, if we look at this on star power alone, it's the worst Rumble. It's got to be at least one of the worst Rumbles. But in a weird way, I think the shortness of it saves it. If this was a standard length Rumble, it would have dragged so much. So the 60 seconds between each wrestler saves this, and for that it puts it in gives it a higher mark, because you don't get those lulls in action that you would normally get in a longer Rumble. But saying all that, it's not the best at all. It's certainly not a 1992, certainly not any of the Austin Rumbles. So it's very middle of the road. So I think a 5 is a fair number.
Okay. See, I look at our ratings for the straight jacket steel cage match. That was a 5. I would rather go back and watch this than that.
Okay.
And I think what you said about it being 60 seconds and you fly through it really does help. I wouldn't go back. If this match was the same match but done over an hour or so, I wouldn't want to go back and watch it because I'd be bored. But knowing it's just 40 minutes and you get Sean's performance, I would rather go back and watch this than what we gave a 5 to previously. So I'm going to go over 6 for this one. You know?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. On the note of this Royal Rumble, however, obviously it's 30 years ago. So people pass away and so on. There's 10 people out the field of 30 who are no longer with us. Okay, which is, I suppose, because it's 30 years ago, it's not a number that you can, I suppose, be shocked at or not shocked at. However, what does surprise me is out of those 10 people who are no longer with us from that Royal Rumble, only 2 of them saw their 50s. That's incredible.
Yeah. Wrestling is just, it's scary when you hear statistics like that, the amount of wrestlers who die young, and the ones that don't die but are riddled with long-lasting ailments and problems well into their elder years. Yes, we've said it time and time again on this show. These guys and girls put their bodies and their health on the line for entertainment, and sometimes it can be easy to forget that.
Yeah, very much so, mate. Very much so. But where do we go next week? Now, I'm really intrigued as to where we're heading, as you mentioned about how a Rumble can be a palate cleanser for the show, which I think you're right. You look at the previous weeks, we've had a lot of 1995, Baywatch, similar sort of stuff, and it's happened in the past. So many options from a Rumble. I'm really intrigued to see where we go with yourself, Magsy. So what have you got for us?
Yeah, I think not only can it be a palate cleanser, I think having a Royal Rumble on Chain Wrestling gives us maybe the opportunity to highlight wrestlers who maybe haven't been given a lot of love on the show. It gives us that opportunity to go off on a wild tangent and not follow kind of a well-trodden path of the chain of wrestling. Saying all that, from all the 30 wrestlers in the ring, I'm picking 0 of them because 26 of them were shit, and I wouldn't want to watch any of their wrestling. So I'm actually going for the stadium, so the Sundome. It's actually now called the Yueng Ling Center in Tampa, Florida, and it was actually used for part of the Thunderdome. It was when the Tampa Bay Rays, I think it's a ice hockey team or baseball team, had to come back. They moved from the JL Arena or something like that. Anyway, this Youngling was the Thunderdome for quite a while, and it held 2 pay-per-views. It held WrestleMania Backlash 2021 and Hell in a Cell 2021. So I think that's an ideal opportunity to watch some modern wrestling. We don't tend to do that much. So looking at the matches on these cards, and slim pickings, absolutely slim pickings.
Oh, good.
But there is a few matches that even Shagger Dave was impressed with. But I want to go with one that has a former indie darling turned kind of underappreciated wrestler, and now back to somebody who we perhaps have a little bit of hope that they will finally get the recognition that they deserve. And it's also the new Ring of Honor World Champion, Claudio Castagnoli. At WrestleMania Backlash, he faced Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal title match. So I want to watch Roman Reigns taking on Cesaro.
From the 2021 edition of Backlash, yep.
WrestleMania Backlash, sir. The first time it was called WrestleMania Backlash.
Oh, man. I'm a massive Cesaro fan. Reigns is fantastic. I'm not sure if I can remember this at all, really.
I mean, I don't particularly remember the match, but I remember the push of Cesaro finally getting that title shot, because he'd been in the company for, 12 years at the time, I think. Yeah. And he'd been like mid-card champions and tag champions, but he never got that push. And this was at the heart of the Cesaro section where the crowd were saying, this guy deserves a shot. And he finally got it. Now, obviously, no one expected him to win, but at least he was getting recognised.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Yeah, that's intriguing. I'd quite happily go back and watch that. I think that'd be quite good, especially with how you're seeing Reigns looking as great as he does now, and then Cesaro is obviously as talented as he is as well. You know, potential for that to be an absolute banger, I think.
Yep.
Ah, okay. Mine takes a slightly different route that I'm going to put up against it, and I am going to use one of the 30 wrestlers in the Rumble here as the link. But
don't be Quang, please.
No, it's not.
Quang.
It's Aldo Montoya.
It's the Bushwhackers.
No, legit, it's Aldo Montoya.
Get fucked. You pick. Please be a Just Incredible match at least.
Justin Incredible is part of the link. Yeah, so Aldo Montoya here, the Portuguese man of war in the crazy, colourful outfit and silly mask, went on to become Just Incredible, who was, for a couple of years at least, quite a big player in ECW. And I thought, we've not seen masses of ECW, have we? You know, we've touched upon it here and there. So I looked into shows Just Incredible was on and featured heavily in. And one of those was, well, he main evented a couple of pay-per-views. One of them was Heatwave 99 from ECW. I scanned down the card. And I thought, okay, well, I've got a link to that pay-per-view. And down the card, well, I say not too far down the card, I think it was last but one on, we have a match between Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka. And that is where I would like to go. I would like to check out Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka from ECW Heatwave 99.
Thank God for that. because I had genuinely thought I may scarve next week's show if
Just
we're
watch
having to watch
reruns
it.
just watch reruns of Blockbusters instead.
Yeah, if we were going to have to watch an Aldo Montejo match, then yeah, I would have scarved. But yeah, Awesome versus Tanaka. I mean, those guys had some wars, absolute wars. So
The only downside with this one is obviously trying to play the game properly with the link and so on. The only downside with this one is it's not very long. That's the issue I have. But that's where the link kind of took me to it. So that may be a hindrance with regards to my selection. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, Mugsy.
I mean, for the people voting, that might be a good thing because we'll get out of here well under the 2-hour mark. So
there we go, mate. There we go. So those are your options for the poll this week, which will be up on our Twitter account at @chain_wrestling sometime after the audio version is released. We have from WrestleMania Backlash 2021, Cesaro versus Roman Reigns, or we have Tanaka versus Mike Awesome from ECW Heatwave 1999. Make sure you vote, retweet, etc., and all that good stuff. Magsy, we got a quick check through the chat before we depart, my friend.
yeah, we've got apparently, according to sources, Scottish Danny, the Bushwhackers in the Rumble 2023. Morty says the 2020 Men's Rumble is up there with one of his favourites. I can happily watch it whenever. Yeah, great pick. Morty with the TK on Shawn Michaels. I didn't know he dated Tony Khan. Well, they shared the nose candy. Did those two?
Yes, and there would have been big piles of it with those two.
and Dan wins the internet with his naming of King Kong Thunder. King Kong Thunder.
That's a t-shirt, Maxie, right there.
We've disappointed Cam and Scottish Danny because they wanted us to link to Gilbert. I mean, that's a stretch. That's an absolute stretch. Yeah. And then Scottish Danny said we should have had the Just Incredible match from Sunday Night Heat.
No, we shouldn't.
And we'll go out with these two. We've got Cam throwing some love our way. Great being back live with the CWF. Yeah, and it's great having you back, Cam. You quickly become a massive part of the family. And then Dan, Awesome versus Tanaka will fucking slap. Absolutely it will. Absolutely it will.
Two brilliant choices. I'm really intrigued to see where we go voting wise, though, Magsy. Quick shout out for your socials, Mags, in case you want to jump on them at any time in the future, or you're not arsed.
So, I actually did reply to I'm assuming it's Mo who has the he's running the podcast Twitter page about perhaps an upcoming episode of All Vision. So yeah, more check your DMs for that. But other than that, again, as I keep saying, life without social media it's heavenly.
Yeah.
It's bloody lovely. But follow me down there anyway. I probably won't read it or see your messages, but follow me anyway.
Oh, there you go.
At Podfather Mags on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Say where they can actually find you. Yeah, that's a good shout. You can follow me on Twitter at SJPWords. But what I really want to direct you towards is the network's social media accounts. So that's Facebook and Twitter at SJP World Media. I mean, this week alone, we've got so much great content coming your way, great shows coming your way. SummerSlam has been and gone. We've got that being reviewed with Benny Mac on in the corner. We've got the guys from RSH Wrestling in the States taking a look at SummerSlam as well. So different viewpoints and different thoughts there. Also looking at Raw and SmackDown and so on. So if you don't watch, you can find out what happened from them. We've also got Nitro Nights, the Doctor Who pod, all that stuff, and new shows starting as well very, very soon. And because a few people have requested it, old episodes of the SJP Wrestling Podcast are going to start finding their way up there too. So yeah, lots of stuff coming your way. But you can follow this show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that TikTok thingamy at @chain_wrestling. And the network, once again, at SJP World Media, where all the shows are shared away there. Magsy, with next week's potential non-wrestling topic in mind, I'm off down my mum's house to dig out my ZX Spectrum Plus from the attic and start playing Jet Set Willy again. because I loved that game. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
See you later, pal.